We are live. This is Sound Booth Theater Live, and these are the cold reads of TOL-SAROTH. Everybody Loves Large Chests, Volume 11. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you for your patience on waiting for this audiobook to get started. I believe that we did. Gosh, how long has it been since we released book 10? I feel so bad. Let me look that up. And I need to also leave links. Let's see. That was Law. Everybody. There it is. Law was released April of last year. Wow. Guys, I feel so bad about that because I love Everybody Loves Large Chests. This series is so fucked up and so hilarious. There's a lot of people who don't like it because they think it's like I don't know, like too violent. People call it like misogynistic or something, even though Boxy really doesn't discriminate on who he maims and tortures and devours. He's pretty much awful to everyone, so I'm not sure. I mean, why misogyny is the thing, I don't know. But yeah, Boxy is just truly awful in every way, and that's why I love him. He's just a terrible thing. But I'm really excited to get back at it. You know, this is one of our best. This is one of our best series for sure. Hold on a second. All right, Instagram, connect streaming software to go live. So I went live. So what do I do now? You are live. Okay. Dude, Instagram is so, like, I don't know if I want to keep trying to... I don't know if I want to keep trying to stream to Instagram, because it's... Oh, no! That's why. Save info, yes. Okay, create... Am I streaming on Instagram now? I'm not. Okay, so let me try and do this. Live video. Sorry, guys. I have to do this real quick. This is so annoying. Fuck you, Instagram. Nope. Public. Next. Skip to content. What? Never mind. Go live. Stream key, okay. Edit. It says I'm already live on Instagram. Okay, I'm not even going to bother. Instagram, you're such a pain in the ass. I'm not even bothered with you. All right, and then I want to tell people... in Discord. Go. Sorry, guys. I'm just... Okay, sorry, I'm arranging for some junk to be picked up. And I gotta like pay this guy. William. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right, so let's get this. Let's get these links over to Discord. And let's do it in the ELLC Discord as well. Here we go. Chat channels announcements. There we go. And that needs to be edited at all right, cool. It's been announced. Everything's ready to go. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Sorry, let me get caught up in the chat. What's up, Thor Fox, Raylo, 90, CJ's here, Kimberly's here, Captain Carnage, Razor Casket, Octopus Prime, who else? Cold Iron Coyote? And Cassie. You're deleting tweets, Cassie. What did you say? All right, oh, well, I'm so glad. Yeah, okay. 1 second. Okay, what do you... Okay. He needs to know my email. Send over the window. Time window? Any time today would be good. Okay. I remember a couple years ago I bought the first book as a joke expecting it would suck. Fast forward to today, it's one of my favorite series. It's so good, guys. It's like it's just what oh no. Oh fuck. Just realized. Damn it. Guys, okay, as you can see, I am so goddamn busy with everything right now, and it makes me so sad that I can't just jump right onto Everybody Loves Large Chests. I'm like trying to do it right now. I'm on a stream with you guys, fucking going back and forth with a junk collector. because there's just so many things that, oh fuck, I forgot to do this. Oh fuck, I forgot to do this. I think maybe some of you guys saw our announcement about Sound Booth. You know, we're starting a new company. We're distributing. We're starting this distribution business now, and it's not just about distributing Sound Booth Theater stuff. It's about recruiting more publishers and getting more people through our app. And I understand, like, some of you found this issue with the app that, you know, it overheats your phone, it sucks the battery dry, but, you know, everything, we're like paying close attention, we're fixing everything very quickly. Damn it. No. God damn it. The tat feels like nothing. It's kind of itchy, but that's about it. Anyway, that video should be coming out soon. But you know, my like, I'm dealing with my father having passed away, and like you know, dealing with his estate stuff. I'm dealing with the app. All this stuff has put me far behind on the Bones at Point No Point, which I really want to get finished, but I haven't had time to like get traction on the editing. Life is absolute chaos for me right now, and I just want to catch up. I just want to get back to narrating a little bit more, getting back to Everybody Loves Large Chests, back to Chrysalis, back to Reborn Assassin by Harmon Cooper. And there's a new Matt Dinneman project that I'm starting very soon. So there's so much shit that's piled up for me, and I'm finally glad that I'm forcing myself to do this stream so that I can get started on TOL-SAROTH. I've missed this series, you know, like it's been more than a year since we released book 10. Books 11, 12, and 13 need to happen. I'm really excited about this one because it's called TOL-SAROTH, and I think that's a really cool. You know, we've been talking about him through the series, or at least the narration has been talking about him through the series, and I'm really interested. Right, this is like Boxy's origin story almost. So it's yeah, I'm just glad I'm back. I'm glad I'm getting to it finally, and you know, there's going to be some surprises about Everybody Loves Large Chests for you guys. You know, I was talking about the platform, about Sound Booth. As you guys, if you're Everybody Loves Large Chests fans and have gone through the whole series, you know just how much production value we put into this series now. It's one of our most fun things to do. It's such a goofy, ridiculous series, but also it's full of action. It's full of interesting stuff. We like our last book, volume 10, we had 8 SBT actors on it. So this is a really, really complex and time-consuming project, right? And so getting this started right now is going to be essential. Let's see. I actually need to buy this copy of it. Oh, okay. Read now. Here we go. Yeah. So the fact that it costs so much money and time and effort to produce Everybody Loves Large Chests, and like, it doesn't matter how much production we put into it, it never changes the price of the product, right? Not only that, but on Audible, we're only going to get 20%, right, of the full purchase price. Neven gets the other 20%, and then Audible takes 60%, of course. I don't know when they're going to incorporate their 50% royalty share, but once they do that, then also we go to the new model where if you buy an audiobook with a credit, and you buy another book in the same month, or you listen to anything from Audible Plus in that same month, that reduces the value of our credit. So like Audible's becoming a more and more impossible place to publish if we actually want to put more time and effort into our products. So I've talked to Neven about this. I'm wondering how the rest of the community feels about it. I was thinking about going under the radar a little bit with this and kind of, but I didn't like the feeling of that. So I figured today what I would do is just sort of get the rumor out there that SBT is going to continue Everybody Loves Large Chests on Sound Booth and not on Audible. And that's going to come with, you know, that's going to come with some other issues, right? Like, number one, we're not going to be able to hit that algorithm, right? The Amazon algorithm with it. We're going to release just to our fans, just to the Everybody Loves Large Chests fans. And the ranking's not going to go up in Amazon, and people aren't going to see, you know, that big boost bring the series back into everyone's attention. So there's that problem, right? Then there's, okay, now that we're on this platform, we need to make up for the fact that we're not making as many sales by raising the price a little bit. And that's also the reason we're doing that is because of just how much money we pour into this project, because of all the extra production. You guys know how much how much time and effort we put into this series. So, you know, I want everybody who's fans of Everybody Loves Large Chests to start discussing this now. It could be a mistake, right? I hate the idea of forcing people to come with us. But also, I really hope that the people who are fans of Everybody Loves Large Chests understands what we're going through and can you know, sympathize. You know, we love this series so much and we pay such close attention to it. Every bit of extra effort we put into it is a loss for us, you know. And so I don't know if the answer is to publish volume 11 on Audible and then 12 and 13 on our platform, just to get that one last spike on the algorithm. I don't know if we need to do volumes 11 and 12 and then 13 is the last one. I know that we are going to be taking book 1 eventually, non-exclusive on Audible, and stick it on our platform, and the rest of the series at some point. But you know, it's rough. It's a hard thing to jump over, right? This is a hard obstacle for us. We want Sound Booth to be a success, but we want our listeners to understand as well. So here's the beginning of the rumor, right? Here's me talking about it right now. So I'd like you guys to talk to, you know, kind of bring this up with other ELLC fans and see what they think about it, and discuss it amongst yourselves. And you know, I want to watch what you guys say about this, because it's important to me that we do the right thing by our listeners. Which, you know, you guys are the ones who keep the lights on. You guys are the ones who are buying the product and keeping us afloat. But the longer we just stick to the Audible model, the more we're just kind of allowing Audible to dictate our fate, and to dictate, you know, how much money we can make, compared to, you know, how much money we actually spend on the thing. there's a lot of trickiness here, and Audible is getting to a point where they want to punish those of us who do a really good job of building an audience that's loyal and who wants to buy more stuff from us directly, like specifically. They're taking this approach that is completely the opposite of what I would want to do as a distributor. I would want to reward the publishers who sell more and who interact with the fans and who encourage the behavior of listeners to buy multiple things from them. Their business model is, I just don't understand. So, things have got to change. We can't just stick with them because they're going to do whatever they want and they're not going to care what happens to us. So, I just wanted to get this conversation going, and see what y'all think. So, please talk to other Everybody Loves Large Chests fans. If you're in the Everybody Loves Large Chests Discord, I'd love it if you guys were to start a conversation about this. If any of you guys detect like strong opinions one way or the other, if you could, find a way to communicate with me in the Sound Booth Theater Live Discord, I'd really appreciate it. Any way that you can to get to communicate with me what's going on. I'm going to try my best to like monitor all the different spaces that might be talking about this. But I want you guys to, I want to understand how you feel, basically. So anyway, TOL-SAROTH. Now, can anyone remind me exactly what was going on at the end of Volume 10, where we might be picking up? Because it's been so long for me, more than a year since we released Book 10, that my memory is a little faded on it. I don't know where we're starting. Standard narrator. All right, well, all I have is the standard narrator. Templates. Yeah, that's all I have. All right, let me check the chat here. Maybe you guys have already started talking about it. ELLC is just amazing. One of the best productions of all time. Thank you, False Positron. I really appreciate that. Okay, Jeffrey Ward says, that will make me very sad, but I get it. Can you tell me why it would make you sad, Jeffrey Ward? Well then, time to continue recommending. Raylo90 says, I'd buy purely from you guys and spread the word to all my friends. I'd really appreciate that, man. That's exactly what we need. We need grassroots support. Because we don't have an algorithm. We don't have the backing of a bazillion different giant corporations. We don't, we do some web advertising on social media platforms, but that shit is just like, it's a strange game that I don't know how well we're doing at, So what we need is for people who are passionate about listening and passionate about what we do to tell people to come support us on our platform. And the more we can get that, the more we can start moving things from just Audible to our platform to make it even better. It's such a tricky dance, right? Like, here's a move we could do, And it would be like Russian roulette, is if we go non-exclusive or just pull everything we have off of Audible and put it on our platform instead. I mean, that's betting on ourselves, and that would be the biggest conviction possible, right? And of course, if the only question was, do I believe in our platform and do I believe that that in our business, then yeah, we would do it. But that's not the question. The question is, will everybody come with us? Will everybody know about it? How long will it take for everyone to know about it? Who's our fans? There's a lot of things in the Audible infrastructure that, that makes me understand why they want that cut that they take, because they have the position to do so. But they don't, it's like they don't consider that the creators are the ones making the product that they're selling. And without us, they got nothing, At least for us, without them, we can start our own distribution platform and try, right? But really our only obstacle there is them. So they're using their position, they're using their power and their weight to keep the deal way in their favor. And I'd rather do business with people in a way that's like, oh, I want us to have a good relationship. I want things to be fair between us. And I want you to flourish on our platform if you do a good job of bringing people to it, right? False positron, I'm willing to pay more. I hope all others too. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much, False. Captain Carnage says, I get it, but damn, that's a step. Okay, Cold Iron Coyote says, to be fair, I feel the cinematic audio performances are a different product than a standard audiobook read, therefore justifying a different price. And that's the way we look at it. A cinematic audio costs about 10 times what an audiobook of the same book would cost to produce. And we're looking to collect probably 1.5 times the amount of money per copy. Jeffrey Ward says, I'm happy to pay more and I want Soundbooth to be a success, but the usability of the app needs to be fixed before you do that. Forcing people to an objectively worse experience isn't viable. Jeffrey Ward, I totally get that. That makes sense to me, and that's something that we're doing our best to manage. I don't know if you're talking about the newest app or the app since our last release, but we did release the new app. It's better. It's better than the last one. Is it as good as Audible? Probably not. Audible still has more features than we do, and it's been running longer, and it's got a bigger library and everything. So I'm gonna have to concede that. Kimberly says, word of mouth on Reddit, etc. are where I get my recommendations, not Amazon, so maybe lack of algorithm won't be as bad in the modern age of connectivity. I hope so. We need our own Reddit. We need to have more of a presence on r/audiobooks. So that's something we're trying to build up. Razor Casket says, love you, want to support and happy to buy through system, but not being able to have the full set in one place is a bummer. Right. So I think that one thing that we would need to do is, upon release of either volume 11 or volume 12, whatever we decide to put exclusively on our platform, that we simultaneously go non-exclusive with everything else and publish all of those things as well on our platform. Okay, so Jeffrey Ward has listened to the new one. It's not available in your car, Jeffrey Ward. What kind of what is your app, or what is your OS, and what do you mean by not available? Bluetooth is a poor audio experience compared to a native app running on the car. I hear that. Okay, so I've been told that the app will run in CarPlay and Android Auto, but you can't like navigate. You can still hit play and pause and skip tracks, but you can't like go find the next audiobook. Any news about Chrysalis? Yes, that's coming. I'm doing Everybody Loves Large Chests 11, then I'm doing the next Matt Dinneman project, then I'm jumping on Chrysalis. Cassie says, just asking, are there legal limitations to having titles on Audible? Can you have them elsewhere? So, yes, we can go non-exclusive on Audible, and then our percentage will drop from 20% to 12.5%. And we cannot take DCC to our app because we have signed a very specific exclusivity for Dungeon Crawler Carl that's going to last 10 whole years, unfortunately. But not the audio immersion tunnel. The audio immersion tunnel is both recognized and untouched by the contract. Captain Carnage asks, would the app be locked in USD? I would like it if you could spend whatever denomination or whatever currency you want on there. I don't know what it takes to make that change, so I'm going to have to ask my team. Meanwhile, if you could inquire about that yourself at support at soundbooth.app, I believe, or help at soundbooth.app. That'd be a great way to make sure that the message gets through. Yes, today is quite the Monday. All right. Okay, cool. Thank you, Jeffrey Ward, for all your comments. I need to start narrating now. So let's get to it. And let's share my screen. Boom. Okay, is there a way? Can I do this? No, I don't want to do that. How about this? That's better. All right. Boxy is back. This is... Who's saying this? Jeffrey Ward? What is your name on Discord? Or where are you sending the message? This is not the penultimate ELLC. There's 11, 12, and 13 left. Okay, let's get over here and start. Set my hotkeys. Check 1, do 2, check 2, do 3, check 3. Phone. Okay. That's good for now. Let's get unlocked from... Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Penne Ultimate. For those of you who don't know, Everybody Loves Large Chests, at least this particular one, is going to be a legitimate cold read. I have not read this book. I am ashamed of this fact. However, I will continue and I will do what I need to do because I cannot spend the extra, 10 to 15 hours it's going to take me to read this thing. Apologies ahead of time. I think that every time I pre-read something, it makes the product that I narrate just 1 or 2% better. But I think I think you guys will forgive me for this, especially since we do so much extra in production. It's a regret of mine that I just don't have time to do a pre-read. That being said, I fucking kill it at cold reads. So I hope you guys have a good time while I get started here. And I'm just really excited to get back on the Everybody Loves Large Chests wagon. If there's any people who were bored to tears by me ranting before, you can tell any of your friends that left or something, or I'm actually starting now. So here goes. Let me get out of this stupid chair. Prologue. Okay, I gotta figure out who these characters are because these are brand new characters that I don't know anything about. Master Galen. Okay. So I gotta figure out who Master Galen is. It sounds kind of familiar. Anybody know who this character is? Galan. Let's see. Let me open my actual Kindle app. That's Kindle Classic. Don't want Kindle Classic. Let's get rid of that. Okay, no one is recognizing this character's name. Let me make sure. Galen. Nothing there. Let's go back to maybe book 10. Nothing from book 10. Let's try one more. I'm going to feel pretty safe if we don't have any in book 9. Okay. He says lad. I think I'm going to make him Scottish. Let's see. Okay. Guildmaster, wizard. All right, let's see. Galan. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's a new character. That's quite the theory you have, Evron. That's quite the theory you have, Evron. Evron. Ivran. Ivran? Evron? I think Evron might be. That's quite the theory you have, Evron. And let's be a little more patronizing. That's quite the theory you have, Evron. It's not a theory! I'm certain of it! Where's your proof? Where's your proof? Where's your proof? Well, that is, I'm still working on that. Okay. So far, this could be a Gary and Will scene. Depends. Let's see. The pale-faced elf scratched his head awkwardly, ruffling his short, oily brown hair in the process. His beady black eyes wandered aimlessly around the guildmaster's office as he instinctively avoided his superior's stern gaze. In retrospect, he should have known not to barge in here without the aforementioned... evidence, but the man couldn't help himself sometimes. He was enthusiastic about his work. A bit too much, some might say, and often forgot his place whenever the possibility of a new breakthrough or discovery reared its head. This certainly hadn't been the first time the man had barged into Master Galen's office with some fantastical idea in his head, and it likely wouldn't be the last. On the upside, Ivron's superior was used to such outbursts. They were disruptive, but tolerable. The young man standing in front of Galen was a promising recruit with an admirable... thirst for knowledge and practically oozed potential. His lack of restraint and inability to follow proper procedures were unfortunate flaws, but nothing that time and experience wouldn't solve. That aside, it wasn't as if the guildmaster couldn't sympathize with the youngster. They were both graduates of the prestigious Mistvale Magic Academy, so the senior alumni had a pretty good idea why his junior was so worked up. Look here, lad. Look here, lad. Look here, lad. There we go. He spoke more casually. I get it. I do. You want to impress your superiors and move up in the world as fast as possible. But this is not the way. You've got it wrong, sir. Ivran rebuked him. Let me make sure Ivran isn't anywhere either. Nope. Nope. Where's law? Here it is. Oh. I see. Ivran is very important. Very, very important. So I need to come up. Let me see if I can do a better job. What do you guys think of Will Watt as TOL-SAROTH? I'm not trying to be rich or famous. I just have all these ideas I want to turn into reality. Yet, these ideas of yours are practically impossible. Yet, these ideas of yours are practically impossible. With our current understanding of the arcane art, yes, but I believe there is so much more to learn. His excitement grew. We have all these limits and boundaries that we just shy away from when we should be trying to break through them. Will Watt, his most significant role in ELLC was the cabinet. The wardrobezilla. I was either gonna give it to Will or to Gary. So you guys know Gary Furlong, he'd be opposite him, whoever he's playing here. Have you considered such things might exist for a good reason? Have you considered such things might exist for a good reason? Have you considered such things might exist for a good reason? I have no doubt, but surely there's merit in at least trying to go past them. Isn't that what you do here in the Maleficium? Okay, I'm pretty sure I've seen that word in this series before. Okay. Let's look it up. A Latin word that translates to evil doing, wrongdoing, or mischief. In the context of witchcraft and sorcery, it specifically refers to harmful or malevolent magic. Okay. Got a pronunciation. Maleficium. But that's Latin. Maleficium. I'm going to say Maleficium. Isn't that what you do here in the Maleficium? Isn't that what you do here in the Maleficium? Galen frowned with concern at those words. Watch your tongue, boy, he scolded Ivran. He scolded Ivran. Okay, wait a minute. I did say Ivran in another one of these books. I think it was book 10. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, where are we here? We're on part 4 of chapter 3. There we go. Okay, I need to go back another couple minutes. There we go. Okay. Still need to go back a little bit. we go. Ivron, okay, good. Just had to make sure that was exactly what I was. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this, call it will. And let's give Will a specific color. Will can be peach. I know we have a reputation as a bunch of madmen desperately. I know we have a reputation as a bunch of madmen desperately seeking power, but that is not what we do here, and talk like that isn't helping. His words splashed over the over-eager youngster like a bucket of cold water, yet he nevertheless bit back. With all due respect, sir, I don't think words alone are to blame for that. I know. But what can I do? As much as the wizened old elf disliked it, it was hard to break away from a guild's identity once it had cemented itself in the public's consciousness. In the mere 12 years since its establishment, the Maleficium had become known solely for its members' willingness to dabble in the darker, more ethically ambiguous side of magic. It was why gifted warlocks like Ivron were eager to sign up with such a relatively tiny organization rather than its more prestigious and respectable competitors. Let's try that one more time. It was why gifted warlocks like Ivron were eager to sign up with such a relatively tiny organization rather than its more prestigious and respectable competitors. The Maleficium's small size was also why it was tolerated rather than disbanded. They were too insignificant to raise a fuss over. At least, that was what Galen believed. I, for one, don't see the issue with that kind of reputation. Ivron confidently stated. Oh? Galen raised an eyebrow. Care to elaborate? Hexcraft, demonology, and necromancy may be practices the public does not approve of, but ignorance of these things will not protect us from them. Whether they like it or not, both the nation and its citizens need us. Only through knowledge and understanding of what the world brands as evil or heretical can we hope to effectively protect ourselves from it. The older elf fell into a short, contemplative silence. You're quite wise for someone barely out of their teens, aren't you? He remarked. Hardly. I was just reciting something I read in the foreword of Orifil's Compendium of Curses. No wonder why it sounded so familiar. That's definitely the old man's style. Though Galen was Maleficium's current guildmaster, he was not its founder. That honor belonged to Zachary Orifel, his old mentor and teacher, who was unfortunately forced to resign and return to the Lodrak Empire. The authorities cited some made-up yet plausible reasons for this, but everybody knew they hated him because he was human. I'm going to change my mouse because I've been using my mouse instead of my touchpad, and the touchpad is quieter. Let's try this last sentence again. The authorities cited some made-up yet plausible reasons for this, but everybody knew they hated him because he was human. His successor and student had a lot of respect for Orifel and privately disagreed with the government's... His successor and student had a lot of respect for Orifel and privately disagreed with the government's blatant discrimination, but dared not speak out against it. After all, the Elven Dominion wasn't ruled with sunshine, smiles, and rainbows. Going against the grain was a surefire way to earn himself a long vacation in a tiny room. So, what do you say, sir? Ivran interrupted his sarcastic thought. Will I have the guild's backing on this project? The Maleficium does not have the spare resources to fund research based on The Maleficium does not have the spare resources to fund research based on mere speculation. He coldly replied, Believe me, I'd love nothing more than to continue the old man's work, but our financial situation demands I be as frugal as possible with our spending. Research into obscure magical theories is hardly what I would call a safe investment. I understand, sir. That said, I would scarcely be able to call myself a guildmaster if I didn't at least try to accommodate one of our most promising recruits. That said, I would scarcely be able to call myself a guildmaster if I didn't at least try to accommodate one of our most promising recruits. Though I cannot give you the money you require, I can give you the opportunity to earn the gold yourself. How does that sound? If it helps me... If it helps me further my research, I will gladly get my hands dirty. Up to the elbows if I must. That's the spirit. I knew I had a good feeling about you. That's why I'm offering you a promotion from initiate to adept, effective immediately. I will gladly accept your generous offer, sir. Ivran bowed his head, a slight smile on his lips. Going up in the guild's hierarchy wasn't one of his goals, but he welcomed the opportunity. The higher rank came with several benefits, such as the ability to take on tougher, more profitable quests. He would also gain access to the organization's confidential information on things considered to be of an unholy nature. Granted, there probably wasn't much considering the guild's age and size, but they were sure to have some of Orifel's more inspired writings from before he was deported back south. These and a few other benefits would be at Ivran's disposal, though not without caveats. Adepts had to pay greater membership fees to the guild and had a modicum of responsibility to it, but such cons were vastly outweighed by the pros. The most important thing about this promotion was that The most important thing about this promotion was that it demonstrated the guildmaster had a lot of faith in Ivron. Normally, only those who had been with the Maleficium for a minimum of a year would be offered the rank of an adept. Awarding it to an initiate who had only been here for 2 months could be seen as questionable, perhaps even suspicious, though nobody would find fault with Ivron's abilities. He was a level 59 warlock and level 17 enchanter. His status alone made him grossly overqualified for an initiate, and the same could be argued for his new adept rank. However, his loyalty and commitment to the guild had yet to be proven, which was what older members of the guild might take issue with. Yet, as much as those who didn't know him might see this as a power grab, the elf genuinely didn't care for influence, fame, or fortune. He recognized such things as useful, but believed them to be merely a means to an end rather than something to strive for. Whether it was innocence, naivety, or something else, he failed to realize why others might despise his sudden rise. Thus, he left the Maleficium's tiny office and walked home with a carefree smile. He ignored the crowd around him and gazed up at one of the dozen mighty hilt trees of Azurvale. He did this often. Ever since he first laid eyes on them at the age of 8, he had never ceased to marvel in awe at the magnificence of the Holy 12. Kilometers tall and with roots just as deep, they were a standing monument to nature's perseverance. Yet the thousands of souls that dwelled around their trunks and atop their branches seemed to take them for granted, as if these titanic wonders were little more than weirdly shaped terrain. Alright, let's go ahead and duplicate this one, and we'll call it Dude 4. And let's go a different color. Let's go with this kind of blue. There we go.
Hey, Ivron! Hey, Ivron! Tree gazing again, I see.
A bright voice called out to him. I'm going to try it again. I didn't like it.
Hey, Ivron! Tree gazing again, I see.
Oh, I know I'm going to hate this person. Okay. Oh, hello, Aylmer. The warlock was approached by an elf with bright blue hair marked by long streaks of blonde. Both of them wore traditional robes that were nearly identical to each other, as did every commoner around them. Standing out wasn't exactly encouraged in the Dominion, after all, so Aylmer's flashy hair usually drew a lot of dirty looks. Standing Standing out wasn't exactly encouraged in the Dominion, after all, so Aylmer's flashy hair usually drew a lot of dirty looks that were quickly disarmed by his youthful and attractive appearance. Conversely, Ivron's baggy eyes and hunched-over posture gave him an air of perpetual exhaustion that made him seem a lot older than he actually was. Looking at these two side by side, one would be hard-pressed to believe they were actually the same age and not, in fact, a decade apart. The other pedestrians would get plenty of chances to make that wrongful assumption as the pair walked shoulder to shoulder through the crowd. The other pedestrians would get plenty of chances to make that wrongful assumption as the pair walked shoulder to shoulder through the crowd. Let's try it. Okay. So, Aylmer or Almer? We got two different spellings. Okay, Aylmer. Let me make sure I get the manuscript. So Reese Gore asks, "Hey Jeff, Small Chests Are Fine 2 was exclusive to SBT, correct? Did the team make out okay on that one? Curious due to the cinematic nature of that one." So, I mean, we did pull in some money for that one, but nothing like what we usually do for Everybody Loves Large Chests. Sorry guys, just talking an event here. How'd your meeting with the Guildmaster go? Aylmer continued the conversation. Worse than I hoped, better than expected. So, no extra funding? No, but I was bumped up to adept, so there's that.
Really? Well, congratulations!
He said with a firm pat on the back. Thanks. What about you? How'd the investigation go?
Oh, terrible. The trail went cold somewhere in the sewer. Oh, terrible. The trail went cold somewhere in the sewer.
That would explain your potent aroma.
Oh, do I still reek?
He sniffed his sleeve.
I was certain my newest formula got rid of the filth.
Ravenous Isle News says, we'll probably catch some flack if you went the way games did for a while, but one way to earn some money might be to make the titles time-limited exclusives, something like 6 to 12 months of being exclusive on SBT before releasing on Audible. So the only problem with that is, this is not a no, right? Maybe it'll work. Who knows? If someone can really help me come up with a strategy for how that would make actual sense for us, then fine. But the way I see it is, if we're going to do an exclusive release, the first thing that we want to do is Audible to hit that algorithm, right? We want as many people buying from Audible at the same time as we can, because that's what brings the ranking all the way to the top and gets eyes on it. So if we do an exclusive release on Sound Booth, and we get, like, let's say 1/4 of those people buying that who would be buying on Audible when it first came out, then those people, like that quarter of those people who buys from us, would be reducing the number of buyers by that same amount on Audible when we do release it there. And so the ranking, I mean, the higher the sales go, the higher the sales numbers go, the more each sale matters for the ranking. So that's going to have like a big negative impact on the ranking and make it to where it's almost pointless to release on Audible, right? So that's just my knee-jerk reaction. So yeah. You're still playing with that shower potion?
Aye, it's not like I got anything better to do and I'm just an initiate.
Maybe I should try a crack at it?
Ha! Ha! Please, everyone. We both know you're hopeless when it comes to alchemy.
A man can dream, can't he? The tired elf shrugged with a smirk.
There, at least, you have no equal. Tell me, what wondrous fantasy were you envisioning earlier? was just thinking, you know how packed the... I was just thinking, you know how packed the capital usually is at this hour? It'd be difficult not to.
Aylmer rolled his eyes at the masses of people all around. With so many living up in the branches and down in the burrows, Azure Vale's population density was truly extraordinary. The old, winding streets didn't help, and neither did the long-standing curfew. All of these factors combined to create an environment where far too many people had far too little time to get their chores and affairs in order, so congestion was constant. Things weren't much better beyond the city's limits. Carriages had difficulty making it through the constantly busy streets, causing long lines along the highways leading into the capital. Little could be done to alleviate... Carriages had difficulty making it through the constantly busy streets, causing long lines along the highways leading into the capital. Little could be done to alleviate this issue since Azure Vale was the administrative, academic, religious, mercantile, and cultural heart of the Elven Dominion, and that wasn't likely to change.
Well, just look at all that empty space up there.
Ivron gestured overhead.
What if everyone could fly from one place to another without being confined to streets and walkways?
His friend laughed merrily.
Well, that would be quite the sight indeed. Reckon you can make it happen?
No way, the other elf chuckled.
If it was possible, surely someone smarter and wiser than I would have figured it out.
There was a lull in the conversation as the pair navigated a particularly dense section of the crowd. One of Naire's priests was holding a public sermon, and quite a few people had stopped to listen. He was regurgitating the typical epithets about unnatural abomination this and heathen southerners that, which somewhat fouled Ivron's mood. Aylmer wasn't as bothered, but he knew how his friend felt about such things and decided to let him seethe in peace. The silence between them lasted long after they left that scene. Thankfully, foot traffic improved considerably once they were out of the heart of the city. The streets were still busier than not, but people could actually give each other... The streets were still busier than not, but people could actually give each other a modicum of private space. Jenny Catcake says, well, in my opinion, starting with this book for the move to publishing on Soundbooth actually sounds like a good idea. This book is book 11. If you are getting this book, then you are hooked on the series already and is much more likely to go get the book from a different place than what you are used to. That was my thinking, Jenny Catcake, and that was also, like, part of why I was like, but, like, isn't it an asshole thing to do? I don't know. Plus, this book, as far as I know, will finally get to the Dragon Island that has been hinted at for the past 2 to 3 books. I don't know, man. I would like it. I would like to hear any more fans of ELLC who is, thinking about this idea. And for any of you guys who are just coming in recently, I had pitched the idea of moving volumes 11 through 13 to the Soundbooth platform rather than Audible. So, and this is for reasons of the royalty percentage at Audible is atrocious, and we have no control over pricing. Tabrasa 2009 says, I recently went to a local author's book event here in Houston and immediately started pimping Soundbooth after hearing them complain about Audible over and over. Figured I might push some biz your way. Thank you, Tabrasa. I really appreciate that.
Oh. Oh. Okay. Okay, guys, this is going to be difficult. I think that one, maybe? That one. Donut? The oily-haired elf froze in his tracks as the tiniest of voices somehow reached his pointy ears despite the buzz of the surrounding crowd. Aylmer didn't hear it, but his friend's sudden halt prompted him to do the same. He watched with a raised eyebrow as Ivran glanced around in search of what made that pathetic noise. He finally located it when he looked down and noticed an old wicker box someone had left on the edge of the road as if it were trash. Ivran crouched in front of the old container and slowly lifted the lid. Inside was a tiny little curled-up orange ball of fluff. A kitten. The elf scanned his surroundings for the critter's owner, or at the very least its mother, but it seemed to be abandoned. Nobody besides Ivran seemed to even notice it, which was understandable considering that elves usually did not care much for cats. Indeed, none would fault him for simply walking away and leaving the defenseless feline to its fate. Aylmer certainly didn't bat an eye as he walked away, though not because he was heartless. He simply recognized that look on his friend's face and knew better than to try and stop him. Sure enough, about 20 minutes later, an out-of-breath Ivran plopped the kitten in a box atop a clerk's counter, much to the confusion of the casually dressed lady behind it. Hello, she greeted him. Hello? What can the Beast Handlers Guild do for you? Hello? Yes, hi. Sorry for barging in like this. But can I speak to one of your tamers? Is this about the cat in the box? She pointed at the wicker container. It is. I should warn you, our guild has no interest in Class 0 creatures. Sorry? Class 0? Mundane animals that are considered of no practical value to adventurers, such as tabby cats. She nodded towards the furball. Yeah, that's just it. I don't think it's just another kitten. Watch this. The man reached a hand into the box, and the harmless critter curiously prodded it with its tiny paws and nose. It also didn't object in the slightest to being pet or held until Ivran tried to lift it out of its home. At that point, the kitten started to squirm, squeal, and hiss, refusing to calm down until it was put back in the box. The guy repeated the process twice more, prompting the kitten to react the same way each time. See? He told the befuddled receptionist. Does your average cat act like that? Okay, I will admit that is a bit odd, she conceded politely. But I know a common alley cat when I see it, and I am confident I am looking at one right now. Well, I'd like to have it examined anyway. The clerk resisted the urge to roll her eyes and began processing the insistent youngster's request. A handful of gold, a visit to an expert on feline monsters, and a slightly humiliating lecture later, Ivron left the Beast Handlers Guild with a fresh serving of disappointment. He'd convinced himself he'd found a unique magical creature, only to end up being told time and again he was sorely mistaken. The elf felt so incredibly awkward he somehow ended up adopting the kitten as if it was his. The elf felt so incredibly awkward he somehow ended up adopting the kitten as if that was his intent all along. The critter still refused to leave its rectangular home without freaking out, so Ivron had little choice but to carry it back to his house along with its wicker box. On the upside, at least the other pedestrians reflexively gave him a bit of extra space since he looked to be carrying cargo. Well, it's not all bad, he muttered while looking down at the little guy. Having you around would probably liven things up around the house. Ivron did not mind living alone, or so he told himself. In truth, his eccentricities made him all but impossible to live with, and he couldn't help but get incredibly lonely from time to time. Though he'd never considered filling that gap with a pet before, the elf was rather looking forward to it now that he'd taken on the responsibility. He resolved to do his best to care for the kitten and even tried his best to give it a cute name, though the people at the Monster Tamer Guild looked at him a bit funny when they heard it. It was as if they questioned his ability to care for a pet, but anyone who knew the young man would think otherwise. It was as if they questioned his ability to care for a pet, but anyone who knew the young man would think otherwise. After all, it was ridiculous to think that little Boxy would be any more of a handful than the 3 demonic familiars already in service to Ivron TOL-SAROTH. Let's try one more time. Wow, dude. Wow, okay. After all, it was ridiculous to think that little Boxy would be any more of a handful than the 3 demonic familiars already in service to Ivron TOL-SAROTH. There we go. That's a great way to end that prologue. And totally didn't see that coming. That's for sure. Chapter 1. Connections. Chapter 1. Connections. Part 1. The Foreign Intelligence Bureau's public office was exactly what one would expect from a government-run institution. It was bigger than it needed to be, almost rivaling the 4-story building that housed all 8 of the Central Consortium's guilds. The place could function just as well at half that scale, but the extra space proved very useful in recent weeks. The place could function just as well at half that scale, but the extra space proved very useful in recent weeks. The FIB was swamped with the collapse's aftermath, its halls abuzz with activity as the organization did everything in its power to handle and alleviate the situation. Yet the streams of elves milling about came to an abrupt halt when its front door was practically kicked off its hinges. There was a brief bout of panic as the guards, agents, and officials prepared to repel a hostile attack, but they froze in their tracks when they saw the one responsible. Standing 2.5 meters tall, clad in Standing 2.5 meters tall, clad in intimidating black and gold armor, and with 6 muscular arms ready to turn skulls into paste, Cora stepped inside. Sup, nerds? 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 There we go. I like that one. She said, baring her pointy teeth in a vicious grin. Got a gift for ya! She unceremoniously tossed the bound and gagged human she was carrying into the middle of the room. He struggled desperately, but the prisoner had no hope of escaping his enchanted shackles. You could use the breakdowns between profit from Amazon versus Soundbooth as a marketing option. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Bill. Apologies. Okay. This is why I can't stand you people. The crowd's gaze moved from the captive to stare at Kira, who had entered immediately behind the demon. The more knowledgeable spectators deduced that Azure Vale's most famous ranger and most infamous warlock had teamed up yet again. They were initially confused because they had yet to see Cora's new form, but the redhead's presence all but confirmed it was the Sandman's summoned muscle. The hero and the mercenary had teamed up numerous times, albeit with reduced frequency over the past year. Kira didn't like to talk about her partner publicly, although she privately admitted to a growing rift between them due to some personality conflicts. In truth, Boxy just wanted its more socially acceptable persona to get the credit for its adventuring exploits, since that would result in more XP for its doppelganger job. This occasion was no different, although the Sandman would have to share a bit of the limelight. And I gotta make another Annie.
Oops. This should be this one. Get rid of this one. Okay.
Make way, make way!
Cecilia Underwood pushed herself through the densely packed corridor until she finally reached the disturbance. She noticed who had made all that racket, causing her to sigh in exasperation.
Sweet honey bagels, Morgana.
She rubbed her temple.
Must you always raise such a fuss? If you got a problem, tell it to the meathead.
Kira pointed accusingly at Cora.
That aside, she wasn't kidding. Mr. S and I managed to land ourselves quite the catch.
Cecilia's eyes shifted rapidly between the demon, the catgirl, and their prisoner as her sharp wit put all the pieces together.
So I see, she said, a look of disbelief on her face. And, I trust your jolly red friend has something for us? Yup. Yup. Yup,
Cora declared.
Here you go.
The demoness tossed over a crumpled slip of paper. All right, so what I'm doing here is just creating notes. Invoice. Sandman Assassinations Incorporated. Nowhere yet everywhere within the vicinity of Azurevale. Invoice number 000184. Attention. Office of Cecilia Underwood.
Azurevale Foreign Intelligence Bureau. For services rendered. Great Collapse Mastermind, 1, 50,000 GP. Great Collapse Evidence, 21, 42,000 GP. Shipping and Handling, 300 GP. Subtotal, 92,300 GP. Boxing Tax, 5%. Total, 96,915 GP. Payment terms, to be received within 5 days at the usual place. We appreciate your custom and look forward to doing business with you again in due course. Cecilia had to try especially hard not to immediately jump for joy. It was a testament to her self-control that she managed to keep a cool head long enough to have the mastermind and all the evidence Kira was carrying safely locked away. Should I even bother to ask how you, found all this? She asked the cat girl once they were in a more private space. By following the trail of scumbags that attacked my house, was the hero's answer. She elaborated, explaining that the Great Collapse had been orchestrated by remnants of the Gilded Hand. The tragedy was nothing more than an act of revenge brought about by terrible people with the motives, ability, and resources to pull it off. The attack on the Morgana household was also shamelessly pinned on them. They had allegedly targeted Kira because she killed the previous hero of the Hammer, setting off a chain of events that led to the Gilded Hand's eventual downfall. The Catgirl backed up these claims by providing physical evidence detailing the methods used to cause the Great Collapse and make the attempt on her life. That information would surely allow the Republic to tighten its security protocols, ensuring no such tragedy would occur again. It was, of course, all a farce. Well, mostly a farce. The part about someone hijacking the hilt tree's mana currents to power the forest gates that severed its own branches was true. The perpetrators and motivations were manufactured by Boxy, though it could never have... made a convincing enough case on its own. The perpetrators and motivations were manufactured by Boxy, though it could never have made a convincing enough case on its own. Stain's mindless puppet was instrumental, but Jen's help had proven just as invaluable. The shapeshifter hadn't considered involving her at first, but then it remembered she wasn't just some brute like Arms. The Harpy had been a top Gilded Hand operative for decades and had accumulated plenty of relevant experience. Though not the sneakiest bird on the block, she knew how to abuse her high scribe level to forge incriminating documents. Her expertise made it all but impossible to identify the manufactured evidence as such, especially once Ristel Faleth got involved. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna just catch up on the chat. Devtron says, Epic Games did exclusives, ad-free, and free giveaways. They found that the giveaways were far better at getting people from Steam to their platform because everyone loves free stuff. It won me over, mostly because I started to have a library of good stuff and was not as hesitant to spend money on a platform that might be gone next year. Okay, well, we do have a lot of free stuff on our platform, so there's a good way to think about it. Okay, Bill Underbridge, basically show how much Book 11 generates for profit on Soundbooth versus Amazon. It would require sharing sales data, but you are trying to build an alternate market. Got it. Okay, so you're saying show people, hey, this is how much more we make when you guys go to Soundbooth to buy ELLC. Daniel Green and other booktubers would likely talk about that in news shows. That's a good point. Jeff, if you could do weekly giveaways, okay, this is Devtron, kind of like Epic Games, that might draw a lot of people to SBT, a mix of highly known audiobooks with unknowns. Okay. What software do you use to edit? I can't tell. Is that Reaper? Okay, so yeah, it's Ableton. Okay, gotcha. Thanks, Devtron. Okay, Ristel Faleth. Okay. Sorry, back at it. Uh-oh. Tabrasa, that's exactly why we make those first episodes free. So thank you so much for using it for what we like to use it for. Okay, so yeah, that's right. I need to look up Faleth. Okay, so it's the same. I gotta check here. Yep, Ristel Faleth. Got it. Let's try one more time. Her expertise made it all but impossible to identify the manufactured evidence as such. Her expertise made it all but impossible to identify the manufactured evidence as such, especially once Ristel Faleth got involved. He would rally what Foundation contacts he had left to put a pretty bow on the whole thing so the Ishigar Republic could look forward to the future without doubting the past. Cecilia leaned back in her chair and sighed heavily once Boxy finished giving her the politically correct version of its story. Tabrasa. It depends on how funny. It's a sliding scale. So there have been times with ELLC and with Dungeon Crawler Carl where I've just been laughing so hard I couldn't
Like, I'd have to, like 5 or 10 minutes is probably the longest. The evil horse sex magic line from Butcher's Masquerade is probably like the world record. My record for longest I've been stopped.
Well, I honestly don't know whether I should thank you or slap you.
The elf grumbled.
What's that supposed to mean?
Kira crossed her arms.
Don't get me wrong. You saved us a mountain of headaches, but you also made everyone at the Bureau look like incompetent fuckwits. Oh. I guess I did, but not on purpose. To be honest, I barely did anything besides help with fighting and tracking. I got my fair share of payback, but Mr. S handled most of the actual investigating. I may not approve of his methods, but it's hard to deny they're effective. His information network in particular is a lot more expansive than I thought. Oh? Any details you can share? I promised I wouldn't.
Which laugh?
I see. I guess I shouldn't pry and just be thankful he's still on our side. Yeah, tell me about it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a life to put back together.
Ah, God damn it.
Of course. Just make sure you don't skip town over the next few weeks. It will take time to confirm everything you've provided, and we might need your input. Yeah, all right.
Boxy left the FIB office with confidence in its conspiracy. Even if the truth somehow came out, Kira could simply blame the Sandman. That aside, it had taken a while to get everything ready. 8 days had passed since its encounter with the... Eight days had passed since its encounter with the old god of destruction and domination, though not all of that time was spent faking imaginary people's handwriting. 8 days had passed since its encounter with the old god of destruction and domination, though not all of that time was spent faking imaginary people's handwriting. A good chunk of the past week had been dedicated to securing the Phantom Auction's entire inventory. Boxy would have liked to attend personally, but that cult business kept it occupied, and the event was too well defended to attempt an assault or infiltration without significant preparation.
It instead sought out nobles of ill repute that might act in its stead in the days of leading. It instead sought out nobles of ill repute that might act in its stead in the days leading up to the event. Thankfully, it was able to leverage some demonic contacts to obtain a list of the auction's attendees from one of the beholders they used for security. The puppet it ultimately settled on was Baroness Emilia Shinji. It had been surprisingly easy to convince the woman to do what it needed. Too easy, almost. Boxy imagined the Baroness would have a lot of questions when it approached her, but she had proven a much bigger fool than it expected. Boxy imagined the Baroness would have a lot of questions when it approached her, but she had proven a much bigger fool than it expected. From her perspective, she merely had to spend some wealthy stranger's money. From her perspective, she merely had to spend some wealthy stranger's money on various trinkets and baubles to be rewarded handsomely in return. While the shapeshifter felt horribly uneasy leaving 20 million GP in the hands of such a nitwit, it was preferable to risking its life on some ill-prepared raid. It all worked out in the end, though. Emilia had spent approximately 13 million on 19 artifacts and 58 masterworks in a single night. The items, as well as the leftover sum, were delivered to her estate earlier today. The Baroness had unfortunately come down with a sudden case of being eaten immediately after receiving the goods, but Boxy was kind enough to store the relics somewhere safe. It hadn't had the chance to go through them yet, which was why it practically ran back to its dungeon lair. It hadn't had the chance to go through them yet, which was why it practically ran back to its dungeon lair. A sudden case of being eaten immediately. I like that. Technically speaking, the next item on Boxy's to-do list was to visit Lucius and pick up the Nephilim triplets, who had been in the ancient Jinn's care for the past 2 weeks. However, that could wait until after it had finished sorting through its new acquisitions. It had been looking forward to it immensely, for the most part. The masterwork items were nice to have and certainly useful, but not all that exciting. At least, not compared to all those new artifacts. Combined with the 33 it already had, its collection of unique relics expanded to a total of 52. Boxy got busy appraising and categorizing all of its new acquisitions the instant it returned to its lair. Each article had been carefully packaged in individual custom-made boxes, which it decided to keep. The containers were luxurious, high-class articles, even when empty, and did an excellent job of raising its expectations, almost like it was opening gifts. Admittedly, it had paid an ungodly sum of money, but the ease of their acquisition made them gifts nonetheless. Gifts nonetheless. Gifts nonetheless. I hate that word, gifts. 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 Let's do this. One of the 19 new artifacts immediately stood out as exceptionally shiny. It was a mithril ring with an obscenely large diamond that happened to be part of the same ethereal repository series as Kira's belt. God damn it. It possessed a functionally identical, yet notably weaker version of the latter's subspace storage ability, so it wasn't of much practical use. However, the radiant gemstone embedded in the precious metal made it one of the shiniest items Boxy had seen in recent memory. The ring alone was worth every coin it dumped into the auction. Okay, not really, but Boxy was trying very hard not to think about the gaping hole in its treasury. The stingy shapeshifter would probably vomit blood if it confronted the reality of just how astronomical an amount 13 million actually was. It could maintain this willful ignorance because it had opted to sacrifice the expendable part of its hoard. It could maintain this willful ignorance because it had opted to sacrifice the expendable part of its hoard. Over the years, it had collected quite a few things that were valued highly despite their low shininess rating: artwork, trade goods, and historical relics, to name a few. Boxy still had to part with a considerable amount of actual currency, but it had plenty to spare. In fact, it had acquired so much it had grown somewhat desensitized to the... In fact, it had acquired so much it had grown somewhat desensitized to the plebeian glitter of gold coins. That didn't mean it no longer enjoyed their luster. It absolutely adored the sight of a room overflowing with generic-looking treasure, but it appreciated exquisite pieces like the ethereal repository ring far more. Ideally, it wouldn't have had to part with any of its valuables, but exchanging quantity for quality was an acceptable compromise when it came to shinies. It was therefore unfortunate that the rest of the artifacts weren't nearly as shiny as that ring. Nothing even came close aside from a few crystalline items that glittered enticingly in the dungeon core's imitation sunlight. On the bright side, around half of the masterworks it acquired were enchanted jewelry, like diadems and bracelets. Those pieces significantly increased the average shininess rating. Those pieces significantly increased the average shininess rating of the fresh haul. Looks aside, Boxy had no complaints regarding the item's performance. The arms, armor, and accessories were a mix of powerful gear that would be useful in most circumstances and specialized equipment that excelled in specific situations. There was only one article that wasn't a piece of combat gear, yet it was also the most expensive one. According to the provided documents, Boxy's witless puppet had blown over 2 million GP on something called a Universal Instructor. It was a cube of clear, transparent crystal about 20 centimeters in size, and its interior held a strange, milky white gas that was so heavy it flowed and pooled like a liquid. The item's only noteworthy property was that it could grant anyone whatever enlightened job the user wanted, no questions asked. It was as unique as artifact abilities could get, but didn't seem like it was powerful enough to warrant the 7-digit price tag. However, that was only true on the personal level. From the perspective of a large organization or even a government, the Universal Instructor could give them access to specialized jobs that were notoriously difficult to obtain otherwise. For instance, the arms master, spy, and scribe vocations were under strict and extensive regulations, typically enforced by magical contracts with fatal consequences. Then there was the matter of exceptionally rare occupations, like Orin's Lightbinder job or the psionics of the southern continent. Then there was the matter of exceptionally rare occupations, like Orin's Lightbinder job or the psionics of the southern continent. The artifact could even access ancient jobs that were functionally extinct and existed only in historical records, though that particular option was the least useful one. The reason those vocations were no longer in circulation was because they were phased out by more powerful and flexible jobs that appeared later. There was no reason for anyone to take up fighter, arcanist. Arcanist? Arcanist? Okay, I'm going to say arcanist. There was no reason for anyone to take up fighter, arcanist, or scout when a warrior, wizard, or ranger were better in every conceivable way. Or so the history books said. Boxy had always been somewhat curious whether the first generation of jobs truly was as obsolete as the records claimed, but lacked the ability to investigate the matter. That changed once it got its tentacles on the Universal Instructor. All it needed to revive those lost arts now was a lump of MP, a target, and a 20-hour cooldown period. There were a number of other uses Boxy could think of for this curious arcane device, though none would result in a direct power spike. Every creature had a limited number of job slots, and the shapeshifters were both occupied and of significant level. It just wasn't worth it to replace any of those with a level 1 job, even if it proved stronger in the long run. The Dragon Festival was far too close to risk such drastic adjustments. Giving its familiars extra jobs was The Dragon Festival was far too close to risk such drastic adjustments. Giving its familiars extra jobs was possible, but also pointless since they couldn't gain levels while bound to its service. On the bright side, many of Boxy's allies, accomplices, contacts, and corroborators would benefit immensely from the Universal Instructor. For instance, it knew an entire village of unbound succubi who would pay handsomely for the spy and scribe jobs. The shapeshifter was also well acquainted with a number of doppelgangers that would be quite pleased with the opportunity to discreetly obtain combat-oriented occupations. The shapeshifter was also well acquainted with a number of doppelgangers that would be quite pleased with the opportunity to discreetly obtain combat-oriented occupations. The same went for any number of enlightened criminals. The same went for any number of enlightened criminals. Such small-scale benefits were only a fraction of the universal instructor's potential. In the hands of a nation, this seemingly innocent cube could upset the continent's delicate political balance. There was no doubt that the big players at the Phantom Auction had thrown everything they had at it, and there was even a chance things had grown violent. Their efforts clearly hadn't been enough to defeat Boxy's horde, though the shapeshifter wouldn't have made the purchase if it had personally attended. Not for 2 million, at any rate. Boxy's selfishness was easily Elder Dragon tier, so losing that much coin for a mostly useless cube was infuriating. The shapeshifter couldn't justify the expenditure no matter how hard it tried. It had half a mind to simply smash the stupid thing out of spite, but resisted the urge since it was likely just its fiendish corruption flaring up. Boxy decided to stop pondering the cube's practical applications until that particular matter was resolved. Until then, it figured it might as well try the artifact out, and it had the perfect test subject in mind. What the hell? I fucking already renamed this. Lavender! The Alrane dungeon master responded to the monster's vocal summons by appearing out of the floor next to it, flower and all. Okay. Yes? Something I can help you with? She asked sweetly.
How would you like some extra duties?
Really? I would love some. The flower girl's face lit up at the promise of more work, though it was unclear whether this was due to the Corps' grip on her mind or sheer boredom. So far, her only responsibilities revolved around tending to Boxy's collection, mostly a whole lot of dusting and polishing. Naturally, she was barred from touching certain things, since she was prone to occasional bouts of forgetfulness and clumsiness. The Universal Instructor had the potential to rectify those flaws.
Enlighten! Enlighten! Laborer! Enlighten! Laborer!
Boxy activated the item in accordance with the included instructions, and the heavy smoke inside the crystal cube adopted a pale blue glow. The luminescent mist flowed out of its solid container and drifted through the air towards Lavender, who blinked dumbly as the strange gas wrapped around and seeped into her.
One more time.
The luminescent mist flowed out of its solid container and drifted through the air towards Lavender, who blinked dumbly as the strange gas wrapped around and seeped into her.
Nope.
The luminescent mist flowed out of its solid container and drifted through the air towards Lavender, who blinked dumbly as the strange gas wrapped around and seeped into her.
There we go. Okay. Agent Sub-Zero, I'm trying to be a voice actor. Any advice? Narrate audiobooks. It's good practice. It helps you develop your chops really fast. It's fun. I'd say it's a really great place to start. And it's a really good place to stay if you know what you're doing and you know how to handle business. So. Oh no, the Discord invite in the description, is that what you mean? Paksud Saita? Tab Rasa asks, Jeff, do you have to go back and listen to certain characters again to lock the voice you used back in? Yes, sometimes. What's the software? Ableton Live. Hardware, I mean, I can't really advise you on because it's been a long time since I've tried any starter hardware. I could tell you what I use, but that's not really going to help because it's all lots of money. Okay, but you did get an invite, so you're right. Okay, so I still want to change it, though. I still want to edit that.
Hey, where's the Discord invite? Here it is. There we go. Save changes. What? Okay, never mind. I can't do that. Who is your favorite audiobook reader? My favorite narrator is probably Annie Ellicott. Okay, how much time I got? It's 2:26 right now. I think I can do one more part before I have a meeting. And I'm sorry, guys, I spent so much time yapping at the beginning. I've been kind of, eager to get back on this project. So I wanted to talk about that. I was feeling bad about not getting to it earlier. I was feeling bad about that. So I wanted to talk about it a little. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about Sound Booth and the potential move from Audible exclusive. Everybody Loves Large Chests is exclusive to Audible right now. The first 10 volumes are there. I wanted to discuss the move, the potential move from Audible exclusive to Sound Booth exclusive. So I really do hope more of you guys will have this conversation amongst yourselves. Talk to other fans who love this series, and see how they all feel. I'd love to hear some more of the people who don't want it to happen, because it's important to me to understand the pros and cons of making such a move if we decide to do it. But yeah, please do talk about this stuff with each other, and I'd like to know how everybody thinks about the idea. Oh, cool. We have a picture of, what's her name? Of Lavender. Oh, this isn't the end of this is not the end of the chapter. End of the part, I mean. Okay, let's do this. The light subsided moments later, leaving the plant woman with a brand new level 1 job.
Ooh, what's this do?
She asked excitedly.
It'll help you with your work,
Boxy curtly explained. I'll just leave that off.
For starters, start carrying all of these weapons and armor to the appropriate rooms. This, and this pile go to treasury number 3. This, and this pile go to treasury number 3, and the rest go to treasury 4. And when I say carry, I mean actually, physically carry them with your own 2 arms and legs. You may not use any of the Dungeon Core's features for this task, except terrain sculpting to make a path.
Sure, I'll get it done right away, Boxy.
While this was far from the most efficient method of transportation, such menial tasks were required to advance the laborer job. The more levels it gained, the more efficient and skilled Lavender would become at her custodial duties, though that was only a minor, short-term benefit. Boxy's ultimate goal was to make the Alrane a tailor after she reached level 50 laborer. That advanced artisan job would give her the skills she needed to process the copious amounts of demon silk Boxy harvested from claws over the years into useful and valuable articles of clothing. Or so was the plan. The shapeshifter wasn't expecting much from the ditzy flower girl, but this experiment had an agreeable profit-to-risk ratio. More importantly, it would barely require any effort or attention on behalf of the stressed-out monster. I'm going to try that last sentence one more time. More importantly, it would barely require any effort or attention on behalf of the stressed-out monster. After spending more time with its new loot than needed, Boxy begrudgingly put away its playthings and prepared to pick up the Nephilim triplets. It doubted Lucius would have done anything weird, but it dreaded the long trip. It would have been tolerable if it could bring Fizzy along, but she refused to go back. It would have been tolerable if it could bring Fizzy along, but she refused to go back to the Pearly Dunes unless it was a matter of life and death. It also entertained the thought of having Jen pick up the kids. But would her Disciple of Chaos skill be enough to guide her through the old fox's illusory sandstorms? Probably not. Plus, the girls were likely in need of some emergency memory adjustment, so Snack's Dreamweaver skill would be mandatory. It was almost sunset when Boxy finally left for Lucius's place. It used Nexus access to relocate to the desert, followed by consecutive gate spells in the direction of Zira's guiding light. This was significantly faster than the mundane cart and camel approach the Nephilim triplets had to sit through, allowing Boxy to reach its destination in mere hours. The triplets rushed out of Lucius's illusory manor the instant one noticed the Sandman approach alongside Cora. Would the move to sound booth mean that the audiobook would be more cinematic? I don't know that it would be more cinematic. If you know what Everybody Loves Large Chests already sounds like now, it's pretty close. It's pretty much a cinematic audio anyway. So that's one answer. Maybe we'll put a little bit more effort in. I mean, we just love to do it anyway, but that wasn't necessarily the plan. I wonder if exclusivity to Sound Booth would make titles more or less accessible to library systems. Yes, it would be more accessible to library systems, and I would, because they would be not exclusive to Audible. All right. Okay, so we need a teleport. Okay, let's do a fade.
This is for... What's her name? Okay, gotta look it up. Alejandra. Okay. Now... Okay.
Daddy! Father! Dad!
Actually, this should be a different color. Let's do chick 4 in this color. There we go.
Madeline, Lydia, and Robin cheered as they ran up to their demonic parent and tried to hug her across the waist. The heavy armor was getting in the way, so Cora dispersed it in a mild flash of light, leaving her in a set of sporty white undergarments reminiscent of the outfit she wore when still a basic fiend. She knelt down, used her many arms to lift the triplets up in a threefold hug, and held them close with a goofy grin on her face. Boxy couldn't help but note that it was a surprisingly wholesome embrace for someone so obsessed with all forms of ass-pounding. Madeline is the bard one, right? We don't have DRM on our stuff currently. Middle horn. I don't remember the middle horn. That doesn't help me. The personality is what I need. I'm pretty sure this is the ditzy one.
I'm so glad you're safe,
Madeline proclaimed, tears of joy welling up.
It's okay, Bill. Not your fault.
Well, duh! Of course I'm fine! The hoarder boasted. You do realize I'm me, right? You do realize I'm me, right? And that the boss is, well, the boss! The triplets glanced at the Sandman with mixed looks. While they were by no means going to berate the shadowy figure for saving their father, they couldn't help but feel apprehensive. He was a superbly creepy individual, and Lucius revealed that one of his familiars had been impersonating Kira when they first arrived. They would likely harbor doubts regarding the Catgirl's identity whenever they saw her, which obviously couldn't be allowed. "Well, isn't that lovely?" the old djinn said. "Well, isn't that lovely?" the old djinn said as he stepped out of the mansion. "I'd almost think you weren't a sentient pile of violence if I didn't know any better." The Nephilim glared hatefully at the demon pretending to be a many-tailed foxkin, prompting Cora to mirror their sentiment. Oh, thank you, Holly. I really appreciate it. Jay Spencer is correct. I will say no more on the matter. By the way, care to explain why my kids are wearing these outfits? She growled at him. What? Do you not like them? The old fox asked jovially. I think they look rather stunning for a bunch of snot-nosed brats. Their attire consisted of black and white dresses with short sleeves, scanty skirts, generous cleavage, and white aprons, all accentuated with silky frills. There were also sensual stockings, high-heeled shoes, wrist cuffs, and headbands with more frilly embroidery. There's a plane going by. So maid outfits? Where'd it go? In simple terms, it was a slutty maid costume reserved for adolescent fantasies and intimate roleplay. The implications did not sit well with Cora. You better not have laid a single finger on them. They were her kids, after all, and any who dared defile them would... Now, Robin's the bigger one, I think. Dad? That's not why we're angry with him, Robin mumbled. We don't like him because he's a total slave driver. Yes, it would be a shame if someone were to figure out a way to download files in their library on their phone. It would be a tragedy. I remember when Lucius as more... Okay, Lucius is voiced by Gary Furlong anyway, so...
Yeah, it was horrible.
Madeline agreed.
Why? What did he have you do?
Cora inquired. I'll leave that out.
Completely pointless tasks,
Lydia complained.
He has us sweep sand from one corner of the room to the other or polish some metal statues. During a sandstorm, do you have any idea how difficult it is to shine brass in that sort of weather? Very? Very! He worked Robin the hardest, though. I'm honestly surprised she's still standing after all the rock lifting. Don't remind me,
she groaned.
My back's going to be killing me for weeks. Meanwhile, Madeline had to sing until she was coughing up blood, even if nobody was around to hear.
The eldest continued.
I'd say these ridiculous get-ups were the least of our worries. I think they're super cute,
Madeline sheepishly added.
You're welcome to keep them,
Lucius spoke up.
Consider them your reward for all the fun you've given me.
Originally, he only put the triplets in those maid outfits because it made them uncomfortable. They were impractical for actual housework, which amplified the girls' struggles with their pointless duties in subtle ways only Lucius could appreciate. Plus, even if lust wasn't his thing, the ancient Jinn's current host was male, so he certainly could appreciate the sight of lovely young ladies in salacious clothing. It was also interesting to watch Madeline practically drool over Lydia and sneak glances at her butt. Robin's muscular physique, on the other hand, made her look quite silly when juxtaposed with the frilly attire. His main source of enjoyment, however, came from the myriad of thoroughly pointless chores. There was something uniquely ironic about a sloth demon forcing others to do meaningless... There was something uniquely ironic about a sloth demon forcing others to do meaningless hard labor, and the old fox was practically an irony aficionado. That was why he couldn't help but smile at Cora's surprisingly doting nature, especially since her primary motivation wasn't love, but greed.
"Enough!" the Sandman declared. "I have better things to do than waste time here."
Kira was supposed to stay in Azurevale in case the FIB needed her, so there might be a problem if they noticed her absence. Normally, it would have left Snack behind to cover, but it needed her magic to navigate the twisting sands surrounding the ancient Jinn's lair. On the upside, it was unlikely the elves would come calling in the middle of the night, and Boxy could always explain the Catgirl's disappearance if they did. However, it would rather not go through that headache, so it had Snack covertly put the triplets to sleep while Arms was still holding them. The former succubus was then put to work cleaning up their memories. When they woke up, they would have no idea a demon impersonated Kira, and their recollection of traveling through Boxy's dungeon network would be replaced with a fantastically flashy... When they woke up, When they woke up, they would have no idea. God damn it. When they woke up, they would have no idea a demon impersonated Kira, and their recollection of traveling through Boxy's dungeon network would be replaced with a fantastically flashy teleportation sequence bordering on nonsensical. Cora was a bit sour about this arrangement. While she didn't object to Boxy's reasons or methods, she found the notion of watching the Slutinator mess with her property thoroughly displeasing. At least she'd get to take her frustrations out on Zira's wonderfully stretchy butthole later, so she couldn't complain too much. At least she'd get to take her frustrations out on Zira's wonderfully stretchy butthole later, so she couldn't complain too much. I'm finishing this part. Mysterious Sound Booth Theater Live user. While Snack worked her magic, her boss decided this was a good opportunity to see if Lucius knew of a way to purge demonic corruption of the soul. Unfortunately, the old fox kept making cryptic and evasive responses, giving Boxy the impression he didn't actually know how to solve its problem. If he did, he would have bartered for something he wanted instead of wasting its time. Since there was nothing more to be gained here, the shapeshifter left the first Jinn's domain and started making its way back to civilization. Its Nephilim luggage was sedated the entire time, right up until it had safely made it back to Azurevale shortly before dawn. Robin stirred in her bed as the first rays of the new day poured through the open window. She sat up, yawning mightily as she stretched her overworked body to find herself strangely refreshed. She lazily looked around the unfamiliar room and saw that her sisters were dozing peacefully in their own beds. Her eyes settled on Kira, who had fallen asleep in a chair with her arms crossed. Robin found herself staring intently at the cat girl's face, genuinely surprised by how peaceful she looked despite the uncomfortable sleeping posture. This lasted for about half a minute before the redhead suddenly jerked awake and fell out of her seat, landing on the carpeted floor with a loud thud. Okay.
Gosh, Trump triple present.
Rename to fade out. Copy this. Go through here. All right. Okay. A string of disgruntled-sounding gibberish fell out of Kira's mouth as she stood, the commotion waking the other two Nephilim.
Just 5 more minutes.
Madeline seemed rather unwilling, seeing as how she rolled over and covered her head with her sheets.
Ahem. Oh, no, you don't, young lady,
The cat girl chastised her.
You need to get up right now.
She went over and literally threw the lazy girl out of her bed, making her yelp in the process.
Same goes for you two. Come on, up, 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 up.
The essence of sloth had seeped into the triplets, a side effect of spending so much time in Lucius's domain. It wasn't nearly as bad as Boxy's wrathful corruption, but it could still permanently alter their personalities. The shapeshifter couldn't care less if the Nephilim turned into slobs and shut-ins so long as it didn't happen on its watch. The Hero of Chaos title was on the line, after all. Thus, Kira had the sisters line up in their sleepwear first thing in the morning, intent on shaking off the djinn's influence before it set in.
Hope you 3 enjoyed your little vacation. I wouldn't really call it a vacation.
Oh, this ought to be... this color. And then let's do this one. This one.
Robin said, rubbing her abused back.
Oh, I heard. But trust me when I say this. Hauling boulders all day will seem downright relaxing compared to what I have in store.
Her flat voice and stone-cold stare spoke volumes to her intentions, yet the triplets did not whimper or complain like Boxy expected.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
They had been spoiled and coddled for as long as they'd been alive, yet they responded to Kira's grim words with firm nods and determined voices.
Oh?
The cat girl raised an eyebrow.
Where'd this motivation come from?
The sisters glanced at each other for a few moments. Before Robin stepped forward.
We couldn't do a thing when those people attacked us 2 weeks ago,
She solemnly said.
We were so useless that Dad nearly died to protect us.
It's so fucking funny that they call Cora Dad. It's just so stupid.
None of us wish to be a burden to those who care about us,
Lydia added.
Being helpless is the worst,
Madeline chimed in.
I never want to feel like that again. That's a good attitude.
Kira nodded sagely.
Seems my lessons are finally starting to sink in.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, Robin mumbled. She was taking this the hardest. Even if she was technically the youngest, she was blessed with the largest frame and strongest muscles. Her gifts made her naturally protective of her smaller sisters, so she couldn't help but feel like a colossal failure after that night's events. Her siblings tried to console and reassure her during their vacation, but it was a wasted effort.
You'll be starting your new training effective immediately. I've already arranged for specialists who will oversee each of you, so your first task is to go meet them.
She handed each of them a slip of paper with a name and an address.
Specialists? What kind of specialists?
Lydia asked.
Veteran adventurers. They're people I've worked with previously. People I consider both capable and trustworthy. The kind of professionals that value ability and character far more than physical deformities or questionable lineage.
Kira had made a sizable number of connections since arriving in Azure Vale, and Boxy had no qualms about using them. In this instance, it was dumping the Nephilim on some of the Redhead's peers so it could have a bit more time to itself. Selfish motives aside, their tutelage would be very much to the girl's benefit. It wasn't lying when it said it highly valued those adventurers' abilities. Even if none were rankers, its experience as a mentor allowed it to recognize their potential. It was unlikely any would grow to become powerhouses like Jen, but it was possible, and Boxy felt it worthwhile to befriend them just in case they hit it big later.
That said, your true nature is to remain secret,
Kira cautioned the triplets. Let's get rid of that.
If they or anyone else asks about your horns, tell them they're a deformity caused by an obscure demonic curse. But you said you trusted these people,
Madeline pointed out.
I trust them to provide guidance and education to a bunch of rookies, not to keep their mouths shut regarding a potentially world-changing secret. Or would you rather have someone else come along and wreck my home? No, I definitely would not. Then keep your divinity in your pants, for all our sakes. Yes, ma'am. By the way, where are we exactly?
Lydia looked around.
I've never seen this place.
Oh.
It's a hotel room on Azure Vale's northern edge. It's not ideal, but it's our best option, so we'll be staying here until my house gets repaired. What? All of us? In the same room?
Madeline blushed lightly.
Yes? Will that be a problem? It's just that...
The blonde's face reddened even more.
Won't your wife-to-be complain about you two not getting any, alone time?
The cat girl stared blankly at the middle sibling for a few unblinking moments.
Now that Maddie mentions it, where is Miss Slythe?
Robin realized.
She's out. What? This early? I thought... Enough stalling, you three! I've prepared some gear for you in that wardrobe. Get dressed and get going. And if I hear that any of you are slacking off, I'll have to introduce all three of you to another good friend of mine. His name is Mr. Wellness Blade, and he's nowhere near as nice as I am.
The triplets were understandably less than eager to meet Kira's favorite disciplinary instrument, so they hurriedly got changed and went on their way. Boxy naturally didn't let them go alone. Each sibling would be accompanied by a few incognito FIB. Each sibling would be accompanied by a few incognito FIB agents to provide extra security, though their presence was mostly a formality. The triplets' main escorts would be the shapeshifters' familiars. They were vastly more powerful than some pre-ranker elves, and their presence would allow their master to react instantly in case of emergency. Or, at least, that had been the plan. But it would appear Boxy had made a slight miscalculation that required its immediate attention. It may or may not have ever so slightly forgotten that it had left Rowana and her mother in Stain's care a bit longer than it probably should have.
There we go. That's kind of hilarious. All right, guys, that's it for today. Oh, wow, it's already 3:13. I will be back at it, I believe, tomorrow. Let me look at my schedule. I think I can do another 2 or 3 hours tomorrow. Anyway, you guys have a good rest of your day. Actually, let me look at my schedule here. Tuesday, 15th. Yeah, I should be able to get started again, maybe even earlier than noon. Just watch out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel or subscribe to Discord or our Facebook group. You'll see notifications if you are connected to us in some way when it's time for me to get started. So y'all have a good rest of your day. Hope you had a fun time, and back at it tomorrow. All right, later, guys.